Shalom, and welcome to the Parak of the week. This week we are continuing our study of Pirke Avot, chapter 2, with the 9th teaching, another rather long offering as we transition into the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who received the tradition from Hillel and Shammai. He used to say, "If you have learned much Torah, don't take credit for yourself because it was for this that you were created." He, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, had 5 students. They were Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Chananyah, Rabbi Yosi ha-Cohen, Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Arach. He used to recount their praise. Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos, a cemented cistern that does not lose a drop. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Chananyah, happy is she who gave birth to him. Rabbi Yosi ha-Cohen, a pious one. Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel, sin-fearing. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, like a spring that is constantly replenished. He used to say, if all of the wise ones of Israel were put on one side of a scale and Elazar ben Horkenos was put on the other side, he would outweigh them all. Abba Shaul said in his name, if all of the wise ones in Israel were put on one side of a scale, with even Eliezer ben Horkenos among them, and Elazar ben Arach were put on the other side, he would outweigh them all. As I said, it's a rather long teaching, and some additions break this into smaller portions. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived in the 1st century CE. He is credited with saving Judaism as we know it by having the foresight to establish a yeshiva, a school, in Yavne following the destruction of the temple. The temple was destroyed in Jerusalem in the year 70, and he was famously smuggled out of the city in a coffin when it was under siege. Rabban is considered to be a higher, more prestigious title than rabbi. Don't be put off by the abundance of names in this parak. We note first of all that as a teacher, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai is focused on his students' positive traits. There's an important lesson there. Encouragement, not criticism, is the more successful pedagogic technique. Also, he appreciated and knew each one of them as individuals. He begins with his own teaching, reminding us not to take pride in our learning. The blessing for study is la'asok b'divrei Torah, to study Torah like our job. And he reminds us that that is our job. That is what we were created for. Of all people, he could have been entitled to be arrogant about his learning. After all, he risked his life for Torah, yet he sets an example by his humility. We are born to learn. Learning should be a daily part of our lives. He then goes on to identify different qualities among his students. Being able to retain what we learn certainly is important, especially at a time when the tradition was still being transmitted orally. Making our parents proud is certainly a way of fulfilling the mitzvah of honoring them as prescribed in the 10 Commandments. Piety, our exemplary character, is a testament to our learning. It doesn't give honor to Torah if we are not worthy examples in our lives. And sin-fearing. Again, the emphasis is on how we live our lives, though acting from fear doesn't seem to be the highest standard. Sometimes it's helpful to translate fear as awe. Living with a sense of awe may be more appealing to the contemporary sensibility. A spring that is constantly replenished. This implies a sense of creativity and ongoing growth, and reminds us that we are not diminished as we give to others. There are deep wells of spiritual nourishment that are always renewed. Does one of these describe you more than another? And is one of them the best? I'm struck by the attention to getting it right and quoting a teaching accurately and in the name of the person who said it. Recall that there were two students whose names sounded similar, Elazar and Eliezer. Abba Shaul recalls that the one who was most praiseworthy was Elazar, the spring that is constantly replenished. Being able to retain what we learn as exemplified by Eliezer is important. But it's even more important to bring fresh perspectives to our learning, as reflected in Elazar's example of living waters. Next week, we'll hear more of Elazar's words and why he might have been the most preeminent among these great students. Shavua Tov.